I've got you on for a slightly selfish reason. I got my car smashed up last night. Somebody broke into the back window. Bizarrely, didn't actually take very much apart from an old jacket. But I was told when I spoke to the glass replacement people that this is a massive crime now. People getting their back window smashed in London and Manchester on a very, very regular basis.
Well, it just shows that how crime is getting out of control, Mike. If you look at those shoplifting and theft figures,
yeah.
They've doubled in 10 years. And what we're doing, we've got enough of our own thieves and vagabonds in this country. We're bringing people into this country we know nothing about. And what's the increase? And I think the biggest telling figure for me, though, is I read this in The Spectator, that in 1951 there was 214 robberies in London in that 1 year. This year there will be that many robberies every 2 days.
Wow.
And London has gone from 8 million to 9 million people. It's not the population increase that's caused those massive increase in crime levels, and it's just going to get more and more out of control as we allow into this country people who, as I say, we know nothing about.
Right, and this is the problem, because there's a lack of kind of policing, I suppose, on the streets in a general way. I mean, my car was parked in an NCP car park, right? And of course, you know, you see all the signs and it says, you know, don't leave any valuables in the car, and I didn't really. There was a box which they didn't bother taking. It happened to have some bottles of wine in it. They obviously didn't want that. So they're kind of taking the risk that they'll just smash the back window of a car in a car park, which is not necessarily under surveillance, but does have security. And you think, well, they're not bothered, so they're just going to carry on.
Well, they do not. I mean, that car park is probably full of CCTV cameras, and the police have got the facilities to get hold of that footage, but they're not using the footage to solve crimes. And what people will see, you know, you see it all over social media where the police are going around to people's houses, questioning them about Facebook posts and like. And you can understand the police doing that sort of thing if nearly every theft, nearly every burglary, every robbery, every rape was solved. But what we have is a situation where 1% of thefts are solved, 5% of burglaries are solved, 6 or 7% of rapes are solved. And you would think the police, the senior police officers, would be really focusing on that. But too often this is not the case. And what the public see is the police dealing with nonsense and going around to people's houses and saying, look, we'd like you to apologise for putting something about President Trump on a Facebook post.
Right.
Why are the police not patrolling around and catching the people who are these prolific offenders? Because again, Mike, 1,000 thefts is not committed by 1,000 thieves. There are 10 or 20 thieves committing all those offences. And the police, of course, they're hard-working officers. They're not helped. The ones who actually do catch criminals are not helped because, of course, these characters are taken to court. They'll get pathetic sentences. We saw the sentences yesterday and the day before of the guy in Epping, sexually assaulting children, getting 1 year in imprisonment. And that means he'll serve, what, 3-4 months, so they're out again, and the system goes on that we're not locking up criminals, and they just offend because they're not frightened of the CCTV, they're not frightened of the police, they're not frightened of the courts, and they're certainly not frightened of going to prison.
Yeah, I mean, I was told by the people in this particular car park, where I've been parking my car literally for 6 years, that a few years ago they knew there was a guy who would come into the car, the NCP, and he was doing all the local NCPs in the area, and they knew exactly who he was. They told the police who he was. Police weren't interested. They said, well, you know, unless we actually catch him in the act of doing it, we're not going to be that bothered about putting somebody in to try and catch him at it, you know. And as long as that's the case, then people who are recidivist criminals who make a living from doing it are never going to stop, are they?
Well, they are not going to stop. And I was like a beat officer on an area when I was young, PC. I knew who the criminals were, and they knew who I was. So in that sort of situation, I would have gone seeing the character and said, I know what you're up to. I would have reviewed the CCTV in that car park the last time somebody's car was broken into, so we can catch this character. But it really is a failing of leadership. We've got the wrong senior officers too often in charge who are obsessed with things like diversity, we must have 50% women in the police, all these things that the general public are simply not interested in. What the public want is an officer to turn up, whether they're black, white, male, female, gay or straight. They want them to turn up and help them and catch criminals, so they think, you know, if I report my house has been broken into, the police are going to do something about it. Because too often now, Mike, people only report things because they need a crime number.
Yeah, right.
Like you probably reported your car because you want the insurance.
Well, do you know, I haven't even gone through that process. I was so busy trying to get the bleeding window fixed last night that I haven't even gone down that road yet.
But often, somebody's house gets burgled, they don't report it because they expect the police to catch the burglar or get the TV back. What they expect is a crime number. And so when the police say that the crime is going down sometimes, what really means is that poor people who haven't got insurance, they simply don't bother reporting the thing. So these crime things have probably gone... the actual crime figures are actually higher than what they're showing now.
No, of course, absolutely right. Mike, great to talk to you. We've got to run. Thank you. Mike Neville, retired Scotland Yard Detective Chief Inspector.